What's up, everybody? It's your boy Cappuccino on another great episode of Let's Talk Local. Hey, listen, if you like what you see here today, don't afraid to go to the old Google box, Brian. Click on that YouTube channel, 216 Creator Studios. Hit that live tab. Make sure you like, share, subscribe. Ding that bell for future notifications. We appreciate your support. I just did the double guns. That's 1985 right there.
Absolutely.
Today we are talking about safety at its best. And I have the best at safety at my table today. I am really pumped to introduce Brian Sebastian from SDS. Welcome to the show, Brian.
Thank you, Drew. I appreciate it.
So, let's talk safety real quick.
Sounds good.
So first and foremost, how does one want to go, I'm going to start a safety business? What was the trigger that made you do what you're doing today?
It started in 2020, where I felt that there was a need for a specialist or a true safety technical house. In the industry, which I've been in for about 20 years, we have large corporations buying out the mom and pop safety houses. And I started seeing where we were losing the technical expertise. So in 2020, right during COVID, I looked at our owner. I said, I'm going to start a business. And
nice.
She kind of laughed at me and said, "You're crazy." And so I said, "No, we're ready. We're going to do this." So she was fully behind me, and here we are almost 5 years
crazy
later.
enough to succeed.
Crazy enough to succeed. Yeah.
Listen, so, and it's funny because most people don't think about that. They don't think about this is like number 13, right? I don't think about the safety issues. I'm thinking about my best practice, right, my mission critical processes on how I'm going to get my business off the ground. Now, it's easy and fast and let's just say it gets off the ground and it starts going. But then somebody does an oopsie, right?
Right.
And that oopsie can cost not only you, but somebody's life or somebody's family.
Absolutely.
Right? And so you're actually out there helping people understand this.
That's correct.
What are some of the misconceptions about what you do?
I just last week or week before had one of my customers that I was doing an entire plant audit for fall protection. And they were like, "Oh, it must be nice to be a consultant making all this money and come in and get to do this and that." But, as a business owner, you don't realize the costs that are there, insurance, liability that you're taking on hand, waking up in the middle of the night saying to yourself, "Did I do the right thing? Did I say the right thing? Did I recommend something that's not going to cause, an accident? Was the best solution possible for their situation?" So, that's obviously that person was a little younger and kind of new in the industry, but at the same time, I think, that misconception is, is that person ready for it? Is that person knowing what to recommend for that solution in that aspect? So
yeah, so everybody thinks it's easy. Well,
it's not.
Let me tell you. So let's talk OSHA a little bit.
Okay.
We can say that on
Yes. Yeah.
Absolutely. It's not a bad word.
Nope.
OSHA is there to actually protect you.
Correct.
And so people are afraid of OSHA. They're afraid of, well, if you're afraid, then that means you're not doing something right.
Right. Exactly.
But what you do is you get in prior.
I do.
And you say, "Hey, listen, we're going to walk your property. We're going to show me everything you got so we can make you compliant for OSHA so you don't get dinged. You don't get those fines. And first and foremost, nobody gets hurt, right?
Correct.
So how does that process work from start to finish?
Typically, I'm asked to come in and look at a location, and it's usually on one subject. Might be lockout tagout. It might be fall protection. It might be confined space entry. Sometimes it is the other way around where they've had an incident and they want me to come in and help with the solution aspect of taking away the injury or having the risk that they had for that employee, because obviously OSHA came in to their location. But prior to that, typically it's, hey, come in, check it. We want to see if we're compliant. And during that walkthrough, that's typically where I'm pointing out other things that I might not be there for. So if it's fall protection, I may be walking by and say, hey, you got an eye wash station. How often are you, flushing that? Or have you changed out the battery or the fluids? Have you have an AED?
They don't recycle the fluids.
No, right. No, they do not.
That'd be great.
Yeah, it would be. But there are eye wash stations that are plumbed and,
Sure.
But you're not reusing it. So, typically it's from, the get-go of walking through and then putting together, an email, a report just saying, here's what I saw. Here's some good solutions to some of the issues you might want to, look into. A lot of times what people generally do is they run right to buying PPE. So PPE being personal protective equipment. And a lot of the standards say the last thing OSHA wants you to do is wear PPE. They want you to engineer it out. They want you to, try to find a different way to do what you're doing or the tasks that they're doing safely. Without wearing protection to protect that worker. So, but typically it's, bring me in, look at the location, give some recommendations. I typically will then also cite standards where they're not compliant in that sense, because obviously OSHA is minimum. It's the minimum law. You have to meet that. And then there's other standards that are out there from voluntary consensus groups like ANSI, American National Standard Institute, and others. So.
Wow. And so, and don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, but I know that there's some insurance companies out there.
Yes.
That actually, if you show them that you have been inspected, like a company from like yours, that actually saves you money on your insurance plan because of your workman's comp and your general liability, because you're taking all the proper steps to make sure nobody gets hurt.
Correct.
Right.
Yep.
Insurance companies, they don't like to pay out either, right? I mean, they're insurance companies. So, however, that's also a benefit. So let's just factor in a little math here. So listen, it might cost a little money for Brian to come out to your location and make sure nobody gets hurt or dies,
right.
Which is number one.
Yep.
Number two, a lot of money is recovered through your insurance on the back end.
Correct.
Because you're doing all the right things.
Correct.
Number three, you don't have to pay out to OSHA or get dinged on that because correct. Brian came and did his job and he did a great job of it. So I love the idea. I love how many companies like yours are really out there, because I think in the green room we're mentioning a lot of mom and pop shops are bought up by the big dogs out there.
Correct.
And the big dogs don't normally, once you become that big dog, you kind of focus on your pockets and what your bottom lines are in business, right?
Right.
To where you're like, hey, I'm right here.
Yep.
So how is that? Is the competition thick for you out there, or?
It is thick. I think one of the things that really helps us out being a small women-owned business is that we don't have a lot of overhead. So, if it's a 15% markup, great. If it's 20%, great. I'm not looking for the 30% or the 40% because I have, 2,000 salesmen, right? But, there are customers here in town that I work with or around the area that have had that issue where they've had maybe an injury or a fatality. They have me come in on a monthly basis and provide them with their policies, writing their policies, putting together their program in that sense. And they do have that discount with the insurance company. I have one customer in town that I've been working with them for 3 years now. And, he rather have me come in on a monthly basis, one time a month, to do 30 minutes of training for their first shift and second shift, versus he was paying $5,000-$6,000 on a weekend to have everybody come in to then do the training for 4 hours one Saturday a month. And it was costing him more because he was bringing them in and paying them overtime versus now having myself come in during that work period or the work day. So, but like you said, on some of the big mom and pop places, or not the big mom and pop places, but the insurance companies and the big dogs in the world, they have harnessed safety specialists, and they are now selling their safety person to come in to their clients and help them out. But a lot of times the aspect of that safety specialist might know enough information, but is not really detailed into it. They might be good at, PPE, or they might be good at risk assessments in that sense. But
is usually risk assessment is usually like the foundation, right?
Yeah.
You're doing risk assessment because PPE and everything else kind of falls into that whole thing, like watching the guy pick up the battery with no top.
Correct.
Got no equipment on, right?
Correct. And it's typically an injury that leads to the PPE side of it.
It's always
they
an
don't buy the
injury.
PPE before it.
I mean,
right?
listen, do you remember being a kid and then riding the banana seat bicycle with no shoes on,
Correct.
with the cheese grater pedals, and then we're going to build a ramp with bricks and one flat thing? What did we learn? No helmet. No, nothing. Afterwards, we were like, probably should put on some shoes. That's as far as it got.
Maybe, or I could build that ramp higher and go this farther.
Right. Or we need to secure it more.
Exactly.
You can't do that with business, guys.
No.
Other people's lives are at stake as well. I know I worked a few jobs to where, you had to use the big, thick, fireproof gloves to do certain things for battery acids and goggles, personal equipment like personal pumps for asbestos counts, and I did training for confined space and lead abatement and stuff like that. And then when I was done with school, they paid me to do it, and then I watched people do it, and I was like, I'll pass. You know what I mean? Hard pass. However, there's companies out there that are just starting that are in the manufacturer world, right? So hard hats, right? And safety glasses, and you're not only providing the service to come in, but you're also selling equipment.
That's
too,
correct.
right?
Yep.
So folks, check it out. That's safetydistributionservices.com. And listen, here across the bottom of the screen, if you see it there, Brian, you want to get a hold of Brian, that's 815-579-6671. They are located locally here in Crystal Lake.
Yes.
So if we're splashing that local pond and you have questions for Brian, it doesn't cost you a dime to ask a question.
Nope.
All he's going to do is try to better it for you. Period.
Correct.
So,
Absolutely.
which is awesome. Give me a story on. You don't have to mention company names.
Right.
Obviously, we're not going to do that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we are. No, no, I would never do that. You know how cappuccino rolls.
Correct.
Give me a story. A nightmare story, and then how it was fixed. What in the end was done because of the nightmare.
All right. So it was back in 2009. There was a 29-year-old kid that was working up on a roof at a manufacturing facility, and he was working on what they called a rat line or a horizontal lifeline. And the horizontal lifeline or a rat line is to give you the ability to tie off to, in case the roof does collapse, it would save you from falling. Yep, all the way down. This rat line was not inspected. It was sitting up there for a very long time. Was not comprised of the correct swags, buckles and shock absorber and things of that nature.
Was it coax cable?
It might have been. I mean, it could have been.
It doesn't sound good.
No, it was not. And so this 29-year-old was working, stepped off of a scissor lift onto the roof, or an aerial JLG lift, a mobile elevated work platform. And when he was hooking up to the line and walking across the roof, he did fall through the roof.
Oh, God.
Yeah, the roof gave way. And when he hit the end of his lanyard, there was no shock absorber in the horizontal lifeline, and that force ripped the cable in half, and he went down to his death, 75 feet.
Oh,
Yeah.
what a horrible way to go.
Absolutely. I mean, and, you know, I do it. That's, you know, fall protection's kind of one of my passions in that sense. But at the time, I was working for a fall protection manufacturer, and it was in my territory. I was asked to come in and look at what happened, what can be done differently, so on and so forth. What, you know, the first thing is that they shouldn't have been using that rat line or that horizontal lifeline without inspecting it, right? But then when I came in to look at what they were doing, they're like, well, we want to put in a horizontal lifeline here and in this place and that place. And I said, that's great. I would love to look at it and check it out. They had 4 facilities, and at each of their facilities, they spent over $500,000. So, yeah, close to $2 million in throwing in horizontal lifelines. And they said, hey, come in, let's check this out. I was like, okay, I'll come in and check it out. The horizontal lifeline was 4 feet off the ground. It's never going to do anything. And they looked at me and said, what do you mean that's not going to do anything? I said, you have a 60-foot horizontal lifeline. It's 4 feet of deflection alone. And they were like, oh my God, you're kidding me. I'm like, nope. And so you see companies that are not proactive, they're reactive. And they spent close to $2 million, and they had to rip it all out. And they started back over, and we came in and helped them out with putting up horizontal lifelines along their crane runways and up on their roofs and this and that they got to the point that they started training anybody and everybody that had an employee or the employee themselves or a manager that had or needed to use fall protection. Wow. So now still to this day, they do that. They send people into what's called a competent person class and teach them the rights and wrongs of fall protection. Along with that, they put up a whole entire climbing system in their one of their facilities or one of their manufacturing plants, and they work on confined space entry and high angle rescue and this and that. So, I mean, it was a fatality, but in the long run, they did figure out what they needed to do, and now they're doing what should have been done
in the first place.
Right.
Unfortunately, it usually takes a loss.
Yeah.
That was a big loss too.
A huge loss.
Yeah. Wow. Well, that's a great story.
Yeah.
Not really, but
no,
yeah,
right.
At the same time, it explains why wait. Right? Listen, folks, why wait? If this story doesn't compel you to say, first of all, you can't get cappuccino on the top of any building, whether it's lifeline or not. I'm afraid of heights.
And as I'm getting older, it starts to kind of get in your brain a little bit more.
Yeah. Oh, wait. Like, I ain't bouncing.
Right.
I might bounce.
You might bounce.
That might be one bouncing over.
Correct.
You don't want to wait. If you need it, if you think you need it, or if you're not thinking about it and you're watching this episode, maybe it's time to think about it because you don't know until it's too late.
Correct.
Think about the things that at your job site. Think about what your employees do on a daily basis. Think about what hazards might be there, and think about calling Brian. Be like, hey, listen, do you mind just doing a walk around? Yeah. And check us out. That way, if even without the compliance word,
sure,
just for somebody's safety, that's somebody's brother or dad or mom or sister. You got to make sure your lives, lives are important. And it's one thing that you pay their check. They also perform a service for
sure.
That's why it's a mutual contract. But it's a whole nother thing that if that life goes because you were incompetent and didn't do your due diligence, right?
Right.
So, wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
And just, I mean, to your point, we don't, I don't charge to come and look and do that or look at something that you have on, that you want me to look at. Right. I'm kind of a pushover in that sense, where if we come to an agreement that you want me to do more, then obviously we'll talk about a cost in that. But, spending an hour or two locally to come and look at something, it's not a big deal. Right.
Yeah.
That's what we're here.
That's your relationship builder. That's what you do. You're in it to help people.
Absolutely.
That's why I love having you at my table. We have a lot of people like us that come here And being local to this area, and I love my community. That's why we do this show.
Right.
There's a lot of people out there. Just out of curiosity, though, how can employers effectively train on safety protocols without contacting you? What are some tips?
Typically it's looking at the standard. The OSHA standard itself will actually spell out how often OSHA wants you to do the training. You can Google pretty much anything out there now and find a good, site that will have some of it. OSHA also has their own site that provides training. So you can go to
Nice.
www.osha.gov, and there's some e-training on some of their higher categories of injury. So OSHA has what's called a top 10 list every year, and it's where did fall protection fall from the year prior? How many violations were there?
What are the
versus
percentages based on?
Yeah, and is it going up? Is it down? And so a lot of those categories still have that training on their website for it.
I love how you say that. I remember being in a workplace and seeing the OSHA poster.
Oh, yeah.
They send that out laminated
Yes.
too, right? Because
Oh,
they
yeah.
don't want that getting ruined.
No.
Hey, listen, if you got the poster, and it says if it's from the 1900s, like 1990, maybe it's time to get another one.
It might be.
And even simple things like that. Update wherever people can see things.
Sure.
Talk about it in your meetings. Being a leader isn't, listen, a monkey with a razor blade can be a boss. You tell people what to do and point fingers.
Correct.
It takes a real leader to take that extra time and work with their employees and then show them, if you really want to know what your employees do on a daily, work with them. Pick a schedule every year where you do everybody's job with them at least once, because then you get to see how the routine goes. You get to see the best practice, how it can improve. Not only that, are they being safe? And hey, whoa, what are we doing here?
Sure.
And then, walk them through that new poster. Walk them through some of these safety precautions. Call your insurance company. Find out if there's a discount on your insurance bill. And then, you get a hold of Brian.
Yep.
And say, hey, listen, these are the steps that I've done. What else can I do?
Sure.
You and I have talked about workshops that you might be doing coming up in the near future. So
Absolutely.
Stay tuned. There might be some workshops to where you can send your employees to.
Yep.
And then everybody at these different companies get a feel for certain things. And I'm sure you'll tackle bits and pieces of all the different items that kind of go with that.
Oh, absolutely.
And if you need gear, best place to get a hold of you to get the gear?
At www.safetydistributionservices.com.
It's a mouthful, isn't it?
It is a mouthful.
What happened to SDS? SDS. Come on.
SDS was already taken care of. I'm waiting. I'm patiently waiting for SDS.com
open
to
back
open
up?
up so I
Yeah,
can purchase
I can
it.
see that.
But it was really a play on words. And the way that the company was founded was we were sitting in our motorhome in Racine. We were having a couple beers, just talking about how do we want to do this. My family was asking me, what kind of play on words can you go with? And they used to be called material safety data sheets. And so material safety data sheets are the data sheets that come with any chemical. And typically in that chemical, it'll tell you what kind of PPE you should wear, how often or how long you should, flush the eyes if it's, those kind of things. Those have now moved to SDS. They're called safety data sheets.
I got you.
So I played on the word of safety data sheets. SDS came up. It's, something that is
important.
searched often.
Yep.
So that would bring up that SEO type aspect and, have SDS there. So,
right.
But
Well, just like any man, when I get a project, I get the instructions. I'm usually like,
yeah,
right? And so the same thing with any of that. And then later you have to go back and be like, just the wall of shame and open up the manual.
right.
However, that's not what you want to do when it comes to safety. That barrel with those symbols on it means something.
Absolutely.
That doesn't mean get a big straw.
No.
Right? That
No, it
doesn't
does
mean-
not.
It's okay if you drink it, but it can't go in your eyes.
Right.
No.
Right.
Know what the symbols mean. Those are just important. Now you do CPR
I do.
as well. As I checked. I did my homework.
Yes.
You do CPR training as well.
do.
So That's awesome. I actually might take you up on that
Okay.
to get refreshed a little bit. They don't use baseball bats anymore.
No, they do not.
Okay.
No,
Well, yeah,
not,
that
not
was
anymore. It's not the old
1985.
elbow, on
Right?
the,
Come on, what's the matter with you?
smack them around a little
Right.
bit here and there. You okay? You okay?
And I'll even say it on air. I mean, hey, listen, if anybody's interested in learning CPR, get a hold of Brian.
Okay.
Mention Let's Talk Local. He'll start building a list. We can use the studio if
Absolutely.
you'd like.
That'd be great.
Show up to the studio and we can even do a small presentation on it, which would be great because, like I said, he does everything. It's you can show the right equipment. You can show how not to die off of a building.
Yes.
Right?
Yep.
But when somebody does get hurt, then what? That's where that comes into play.
Correct.
So are you an instructor on first aid, CPR? What else? What else kind of goes with that?
So CPR and first aid, AED, and I typically in the last couple.
What does AED stand for?
Automatic defibrillator. It's
Okay.
the electronic defibrillator.
Clear.
Yep,
That
clear.
guy?
Yep,
Love
exactly. AEDs. So we do that training for them. I do it for some of the local Girl Scout troops here in town. Typically, I'll do it for my cost and a little extra just to cover it because it is the Girl Scouts. So I try to help out with the local in that sense. But I am a forklift or a powered industrial truck certified instructor.
Wow.
So I teach people how to drive forklifts. I do the certification for that. I am a 3M competent person instructor, and that's a 2-day class teaching people on the ins and outs of fall protection, from what does OSHA say, what does ANSI say, how to wear the harness, how to work at heights, how to do high angle rescue, how do we work on orthopedic suspension trauma, meaning that if you're hanging your harness too long, it's not good for you. So I do that. With the 20 years of experience in the safety industry.
So 3M.
3M.
So that's a lot more than just tape.
It is a lot more than tape.
I got
Yes,
you.
absolutely.
It is more than tape, guys.
It
just
is.
to let you know.
Yes.
Because I was expecting to hear all kinds of tape certification. I'm like,
Yeah, no,
really?
no.
Tape? Wow, that's a lot.
Yeah,
But go
3M
ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt. Go
No,
ahead.
no. 3M is big on welding equipment. So they have one of the best PAPRs, which is a powered air purifying respirator for welding applications. There's the fall protection company I was with Honeywell. Honeywell recently just sold off the fall protection side, but confined space entry.
Done that one.
Oh yeah,
Don't like that one.
no. A lot of people don't.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's not.
And that's if you start to think about it, that's typically where you start to lose
Do you
it.
lower somebody into a tube?
Yes.
That's what happened to me. And I got almost all the way through. Listen, if you don't notice, I'm sugarcoated.
Correct.
So I'm an instant wedge. If
Right.
you're not buttering that damn tube, right?
Right.
Just for my own safety.
Correct.
I got almost all the way in and I was like, no, we're done. And like, come on, you'll be fine. And I was like, if you don't take me out of here,
Right.
everybody's going to get hurt.
Yeah.
And then we're all in trouble.
Then we're all in trouble.
Right.
Yeah. But
Describe that a little bit so people get
Confined
an idea.
space?
Yeah, confined
Oh,
space.
okay.
It's scary.
it is very scary. So my very first job into the safety industry was with a company called MSA, or otherwise known as Mine Safety Appliances, and they're based out of Pittsburgh. Their first, one of their first engineers was Thomas Edison, and
Really.
oh yeah, he developed
It's kind of a big deal.
Kind of a big deal, yeah. He developed the first gasless camp light. So coal miners used to go in with a hard hat with either a canary or a candle on their on the top of the hard hat. He developed the first battery camp light that would be intrinsically safe, because what was happening is the candle was causing the explosions in the mines.
Natural gas.
Natural
Right.
gas, yeah.
And then the canary would either die.
The canary would sit there and whistle and sing and or tweet, and then when the canary would stop, the coal miner knew to get out, because there was either carbon monoxide or
bad
SO2
things
or
happen.
H2S in there, right? And at one point, we used to sell canaries at that company. So
Wow.
yeah,
Wow.
back in the early 1900s. So
Wow.
yeah. So that company trained me on the aspect of servicing SCBAs, self-contained breathing apparatuses for the firemen, as well as industrial fire brigades.
Okay.
Which you typically will see at steel mills and
Yep.
food plants like ADM. But along with that, we also sold gas monitors. So now the Canary has been replaced with a gas monitor. It has a sniffer.
No birds have been hurt in this episode.
No.
That's all I'm saying.
Exactly.
A lot of hate mail coming in today.
Right.
Yeah, no.
But-
So
But for confined space.
yeah. So you have found ways to with the new equipment that kind of better that.
Absolutely. Even with thermal imaging cameras, like you were asking, what does confined space look like? Well, my first job of going into a confined space was pitch black, and I was feeling around. Where are you? And you had to get out of the area, and they filled it with smoke. And, I was carrying an SCBA, so now you learn how to take the SCBA off and push through 16 by on center, walls. And, it very, very difficult to do if you're not comfortable with confined spaces. And
Well, yeah, no.
and as you get older, you start to think a little bit more again. And
Well, so one of the tests that we had to go through was full APR,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
With a pump,
yep,
to measure the amount of asbestos that might be blowing around in the area.
Yeah.
Then they would lower us into a tube that I want to say was sewer-like size, maybe.
yeah, yep,
In a full APR suit. Now,
Yep.
APR is a full apparatus, breather, helmet, the whole nine, right?
Yeah.
Full face. And you got a scraper and a squirt bottle.
and you're scraping.
And you're spraying and scraping like this.
Yeah,
And trying not to create like a dust cloud, right?
Yes.
So that's why you got to spray it. And then you would ask for a hose for a vac, and they would suck it up.
Yeah.
That job's bullshit. I'm sorry.
Oh.
I can't. There's no way.
Right.
There's people that'll do it.
yep,
There's no way I could do that. And bless the ones who do that.
Sure.
So now, listen, that was early 90s.
Yes.
Back in the 1900s.
yeah, right.
I know, right?
Right.
How has that changed? Other than, is that really about the same?
Same.
We
Pretty
can't-
much the same.
We can't find a device or a drone of some kind.
It's getting better in that
Is it?
sense, but a lot of times what they'll do is they'll use cameras. They'll drop them in the holes to kind of see what they're dealing with. A lot of times it's during shutdown, so that they won't interrupt any production. But in the industry, right around mid 2000s, a lot of companies started getting away from having their employees do it, and now it's being contracted out. So there's a lot of contractors that's all they do. They come in and they'll do a turnaround. They'll clean out, tanks and vessels and whatever it might be, and they're the ones that are doing that. A lot of people were upset about it because it took away a job, but half the time the guy didn't want to do it. It wasn't, being done appropriately. You had to go through medical evaluations, pulmonary functions.
My answer was encapsulate everything.
Right.
Just encapsulate
Encapsulate it.
everything.
Yeah. And you and I wouldn't be able to wear a mask with our, full face.
Oh,
mask,
yeah, no,
right?
no. And you don't want to know what this looks like without this beard.
Right.
Uncle Fester comes to mind.
Right.
Wow, man. That's a lot of cool stuff that you're
Absolutely.
doing out there. Appreciate you coming to the show.
No, thank you very much.
Is there
for the
any
opportunity.
other tips and tricks before we call it the end?
No, I mean, you were asking for different places to go and get information.
Yep.
National Safety Council is another one. They're located here in Illinois. The American Safety Society of Professionals is another way. Reach out to me. I have no problem, helping out. I'm very passionate about safety.
I can tell.
I actually grew up in
This is your gig, dude.
Yeah,
This is your gig, no doubt.
I grew up in the industry, so since I was 5 years old, I've been around the safety world. So for me, it's, give me a call. I'll lead you to kind of the right way, and if you need more information or we need to help you out, let me know. But it's small companies that we deal with to very large corporations.
Yeah.
I deal with some that I can't mention their names, and I won't, but data centers in that sense.
Oh, yeah.
So we're not just local. Last year, I think we were in 19 different states and two different countries. So, we're known in the industry because of who and what I've done and how I've helped people over the years.
Brian will travel.
Brian will travel.
Listen, and we definitely have an outreach here.
Yes.
We like to splash our local pond here. So
Yes.
anywhere from, we like to push as far as Elk Grove if we can.
Yeah.
No,
I have
and then
multiple
out
customers
into
in this area.
Wisconsin.
Yeah, my territories, I used to have Illinois, Wisconsin, Michigan. So there's a lot of companies that are probably, know me and I've been there before.
Yeah.
So local is better. It allows me to be able to sleep in my bed versus being in a
That's
hotel.
awesome.
And I think, I was telling my family last year, between October 2nd, I think it was, to December 19th, I think I was in my bed maybe 10 nights.
Ooh.
Yeah. So on the road a lot, but no.
Next episode with
reach out.
Brian. How was the hotel
Right.
rating?
Well, I got a good night's sleep because I stayed at a Holiday Inn.
There you go. Hey, that check Holiday Inn can go to 216 Creator Studios.
Actually, it's Hilton, but I didn't want to get Paris Hilton.
No. Oh,
I love Hilton. Hilton's my
yeah, they're
choice.
good. They're good
Yes.
people.
Yes.
They're all good people.
They're all good people. But no, just reach out.
Yeah.
I love what I do. Our tagline is your safety, our passion.
Nice.
And it's true. It is what it is. There's a lot of times that I'm kind of long-winded, but that's because I truly want to.
Quick, you're sitting at the table with the person who invented long wind.
Right.
Everybody knows that.
Right.
Listen, check him out, guys. Brian's here to help. He's here to save the day if he needs to. It doesn't hurt. Doesn't cost you time to have a conversation. A lot of people are like, man, this isn't going to be within my budget. Talk to him.
Yeah.
Build that relationship with Brian. 815-579-6671, located here in Crystal Lake. Or feel free to reach out here, and I'll pop this back up on the screen.
Awesome.
That's safetydistributionservices.com, not SDS.com, but safetydistributionservices.com. On the play of words, listen, we appreciate you coming on to the show.
Yeah.
And
you can also check us out on Instagram, Facebook.
Shoot those out, man.
And
I'm only
LinkedIn.
hosting and producing at the same time today, Brian.
Yeah, no, so LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram are the other avenues that we post stuff. So.
Yeah, so they're a little bit everywhere. Also, stay tuned. Ask Brian, hey, is there a workshop coming up that my place can go to? If there's not, and he gets that request, maybe he'll build one.
I can build one.
And not brain surgery, CPR, first aid, a little bit of everything. Don't want to fall through the roof? Call Brian.
Yep.
That's kind of where I'm going to leave that at today.
Perfect.
Until next time, folks. Hey, listen, we always like to talk local, but we like to listen global. Take care.